right, you are now live on YouTube.
Thank you. Hey, we'll start the July 14th DRC agenda or DRC meeting today at 10:02. First item on the agenda is the Orchard Hills Phase 2 preliminary subdivision review. And so do we have any representatives? Got,
We do.
okay. Would you like to come up to the table here and we'll bring those up and start discussing. So
Okay.
let me pull up the plans here real quick. So this is a proposed expansion of an existing townhome development located on 120 East and 610 South. Currently there's 16 townhome units, 17 townhome units that are constructed on that corner. Kind of give you an idea, Orchard Hills Elementary School is directly south of the existing townhomes. So the proposal is to construct an additional 20 townhomes and tie those two developments together. So it's an expansion of the development that was just finished up here this spring. So yeah, it's an additional 20 units, townhomes, very similar product to what I've got a little bit further south. Let's go through there. So, okay, what am I doing? Let's just cancel that for now. So with that said, we'll kind of go around the room, give different departments. This is a preliminary approval. I didn't mention that before. So this is a preliminary review. So it's go depending on the motion. This is would be a recommendation to the Planning Commission as it goes through the process. So with that said, go through Taylor with fire. Do you have anything?
My only concern is the length of the dead end road.
So this one here.
Yes, I believe it's over 150 feet from John Boulevard to the dead end.
As Kevin gets his way.
Really creative.
Kevin's way.
Somebody asked me for street names and said, I gotta have them right now. Here you go. But I have them highlighted here to make sure that they don't get recorded that way.
So this length here.
Yeah, so if that's over 150 feet, we would either need an approved turnaround or a second egress out of there.
So would that be measured from the center line of the intersection here? So about right here to the end of the building?
To the end of
the curb.
Of
to this curb right here.
no,
Roughly.
the furthest curb.
This one?
Yep.
Oh, so 150 feet from here to that.
Correct.
To that curb.
Yep.
Okay. And if it exceeds that 150, what's the radius or turnaround that would be needed? A hammerhead?
It would either need to be a hammerhead or if they could, well, they wouldn't have the room to do that.
Or a bold turnaround type thing?
Yeah. Or if that could even be punched through to Highland Drive and just be a secondary access right there.
So Highland Drive is that designated as a collector. I'm trying to remember. So that with that collector, it's limited access at some point, but so that'd be potential to put a through road there. Kind of another access here. So they do technically for the development, they've got 2 points of ingress already existing off of 120 East.
So John, if they do want to propose that, we would just need to look at the distance and see if it matches the distance criteria for a second access.
Yep.
On Highland.
Off of Highland Drive.
And access on Highland Drive.
Yep.
That's right. This parking. You have to be set back 1, 2, 3.
So as long as they would just have to look at it and see, that's something they're going to need to
As
require.
long as it's not over 150 feet, then we're fine.
Yeah, so from the center line of that intersection of where the two center lines meet from that point to the far curb, if that exceeds 150 feet.
I don't know, but I don't think it's over 150.
I thought Jared, I thought Jared made a circle there and put it right at 150 and said, okay, here's where we have to put John Boulevard compared to Kevin Way.
And maybe showing that circle, that radius, or
Yeah.
putting some sort of
like that.
distance there.
I think
to
the
look
easiest thing
at.
is to make sure that radius is not exceed your 150.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Anything else? Okay. Norm, administration?
You'll have the comments for administration. There's not really any comments there as far as that goes, just meeting fire and engineering. There's no concern from admin at this one.
Wade with Public Works?
I just got a question. Are we gonna do like street signs with those road names? It's pretty confusing. Took me 2 days to find Joe Elway.
Yeah.
Because the addressing's got those names on
So these are private roads.
Yeah, I know.
Essentially, they're driveways. Like, private accesses to the
it. The public's
townhomes.
trying to find the address.
So no, we'll talk with you guys and come up with better names than we.
Wade Way sounded
Yeah,
good.
there you
Yeah,
go.
wait, that works for me.
So
If
again,
you don't put a sign up, I'm good with it.
one of the comments that we do have is they do need to provide proposed addressing for review. And so we'll kind of work on trying to find the best way to address those. Because if I remember correctly, these units back here, well, I don't remember how these units were addressed. They're tucked back in here.
Joe will win.
Were they just off of that?
Those four are.
Okay.
Yeah, they are.
And I'm not
Does
sure
that make
where-
it confusing? Is that,
Well, I had a tag. I didn't have no idea where it was at.
okay?
So I was like,
You tell us how you want it, we'll do it.
I don't know. We just haven't put a one street sign out on the street.
there.
There
There's
was.
There
nothing
isn't.
for Joe
No,
Elway.
not for Joe Elway, there isn't.
We can certainly make some and stick them up.
That's what I'm wondering, if he just put a street sign on it, private street sign.
We can do something like that. That makes it easier.
Even something that maybe underneath parentheses private or something like that. That's partly why we want you to name them that way rather than having them as numbered coordinates, because then it makes it, gives it the perception like it's a public road.
Okay.
When I can't find a place, I'm sure delivery people can.
That's pretty safe bet, I think.
So put some signage in there to help direct traffic. Yep.
Now, what about water lines going through there? Are they?
So they're proposing a 4-inch vault here, 4-inch meter vault in this location just off of unit 7, and a 2-inch coming off of basically that northeast corner of unit 8. So the 2-inch would serve these 6 units. The 4-inch would serve the remaining 14 units is what's, and then they've got a PI service connection in this location, if I remember correctly. So
What
are
about hydrant lines?
they've got one fire hydrant, that's the sewer. There's a fire hydrant just coming off of out of the water line. So there's just a single hydrant coming off.
So if those main lines in those private streets, we just put a valve in the street on the main line, and anything goes wrong,
Seems
that's their
familiar.
responsibility.
So the old one has a loop, right?
The old one, it doesn't have a loop. The old one has just a straight dead end culinary water line that comes and serves an existing
That
hydrant
hydrant.
right here.
But it has a valve out.
It does have a valve out in the street.
Yeah, so you have a valve just out in the street and then it's their fire.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a valve
So you'll end
located
up having the
right
same
here.
thing here, right?
Just show that.
Yep, there's a
Okay.
valve right here in this location here, coming off the line. There's a fire valve there to the.
As long
to
as
the
that
hydrant.
meets the distance for fire, then
And all those units come off of that line. Into there.
So for serve,
14 through 14, 18.
so that comes off this 4-inch line coming off. So this is an 8-inch or coming off of to serve the fire. And then you got a 4-inch that comes and serves units 1 through 7 and then 14 through 20.
And then we're responsible from the box back.
Anything past the meter or the valve on the main line.
That makes sense.
Anything else, Wade?
That's all I got.
Randy with
No,
building?
Yeah,
Yeah.
once they decide on the street names. we get-
Wade Way and Randy Road.
Okay, Rod with police.
Are you gonna talk about parking and stuff, or the engineering? My concern is, we've done a lot of these projects throughout the city, and I've never seen a more complete lack of respect or disregard for the staging of materials on a city street than I did in this first 16 minutes. Every day the only reason this went as fast as it did is because the school was shut down early. And there was a constant influx of building materials staged on that sidewalk, out into the street, complete shut off. I went up there one day, I was just out driving around, and the landscapers had that road completely shut down. Traffic was going through the school parking lot to get around the landscapers. And it wasn't just the landscapers, I mean, it was the framers. Despite having all of that open space, we decided to stack all that material on the city street. So I would like some assurances that we're not gonna have a repeat of that same type of activity now that we're condensing this area down even more. So,
Well, and I would go further as administration. If that happens again, we just need to cite it.
I would rather see,
Whoever it is, whether it's landscaping, and cite them, just so you guys are aware, those citations are daily.
Yeah.
Until things are remedied.
here's the problem when we talk about subs.
Right, they don't get the message.
They don't get the message.
Right,
So
right.
It really takes, well, a $50 citation is worth the risk to dump your material out the street. What it really takes is just a complete shutdown of the project. Just red tag it, be done with it until that material is, continue to do that over and over. Until these folks get the message to their folks that they can't stage material out in the street.
I think the answer is we'll do both. Cite them individually and then communicate with us. And then we'll have our building inspectors go out and red tag and shut the whole project down until it's.
I mean, we did projects that are bigger than this, like the one next door, the one behind us that wasn't. And we're not unreasonable. We understand that sometimes you have to put material in a certain spot, like a load of trusses and you're hanging them that big. I get that part. But we've had bigger projects than this that just wasn't near the headache that this one was. And this one's right next to the school, which makes the traffic flow even worse.
Just even more.
So I would like some assurances from the developer, the builders, that we're not going to have a replay of what we see.
So one thing that's we've done with other to help address this concern is on the plans is you indicate staging locations that would allow for construction workers parking to account for them, because you got construction trailers, you got your workers there that show, and then also locations where you could stage materials. Now, as construction gets going to help.
Just a thought with that,
alleviate
maybe
that.
18, 19, 20 are your last buildings, because there's a whole bunch of space around that where you could stage and.
We would love to be able to do that. We were, some of the reason why we had those concerns is because we had to install the park in our first phase. If we can install the park at the end of it, when we do 18, 19, and 20, we've got a great place to stage the entire project. So if we can have approval from administration to not have to put the park in after the very first building, which is what we've had to do in the past, that would be a great idea.
So I guess here's a question with that. Are you planning to phase this? We haven't seen a phasing plan.
We're gonna have to probably phase it. yes.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And
Kind of
that's,
like what we did before.
that'll probably go with the staging plans. We got to see how you're going to phase it. And that way, 8, 9, and 10 can be done in their own phase without all the other site improvements being done.
So yeah, if we can do that, then that makes it easy. But
Yep.
before on the first phase where the park was, that was like John was saying, that was originally gonna be our staging area, and it worked great at first until we got up there by the
Well,
school.
and I think it was done that way because you had it all in one phase rather than broken up. So So I think
So
just take a
If we
little
can
bit,
work together on
Yep.
that, I think we can make it
Do a-
work, because the last thing we want to do is might cut more headaches for these
do a little
guys.
bit more planning and phase it out. And that's usually how people want to do it, because they'll get a building done and they'll want to get C of Os for that. I mean, we try and work with you, but when it comes right down to it, we go by the phase, and everything within the phase needs to be done for C of Os.
Then
So
let's-
break it up and phase it.
Okay,
So
that's what we're doing.
regardless of that, Ron still has a
Yes.
valid concern. When you get down to the last building or two, you're still gonna have those staging issues that you're gonna have to deal with, because you're going to have staging materials, you're going to have customers that are living in some of the units. You're still gonna end up having that same
Yes.
issue, no matter what phasing is, whatever. When you get down to the end, you're still gonna have those same issues. So the reality of it is that he's asking for you guys some assurance that that's not going to happen. And we're letting you know up front that if it does happen, you're gonna be shut down and cited immediately.
Sure.
So it's kind of a give and take, yes, but at the same time, it's going to come down to, you're gonna be out of room at some point, and we're gonna end up having the same problems. And making sure that you're maintaining safe right of ways is a big deal for Rob.
Okay. And that makes sense.
And I've been the same way. I've been up there when they were cutting into the road and the whole road was shut down. And again, arguably that was a need, but after a day or two, that gets a little bit old, that it just keeps continuing on and on and on and on. It's, if you got trusses for a half a day in the road, get them out of the road and get them hung and get out of the road. But the reality of it is you're going to end up with that same situation at the end of this project, period. No matter how you phase it, no matter how you stage it, you're gonna end up with a similar situation that we just can't have.
Sure. Well, I'm thinking of another option too, is we've been working with Dennis Brandon on purchasing his property, and maybe we can come in through his or use some of that worst case scenario. But if we do 18, 19, and 20 as the last, and I'm pretty sure we can keep everything out of there and make that a lot better, and that creates less headaches for you guys, because you know you guys are getting phone calls and people bugging you guys, which we don't want that. And we don't want them either.
Anything else, Rod? Okay. I'll pull up engineering and planning and zoning comments. Couple of items. When it comes to layout, you're showing 18-foot deep parking stalls. It is possible to reduce that to 18 feet. However, need to have appropriate width of sidewalks, or 6-foot sidewalk there that needs to be done along that side. However, we're also missing the 5-foot landscape buffer that's required along the sides of the buildings there. Some items connect that, the pavilion, a sidewalk to the pavilion there. A fence detail needs to be provided. All multifamily requires a masonry fence. I know down here on the south, we do have a masonry fence installed there. As you work with the neighbor property there to get that done, but it's now a city requirement.
Oh, okay.
We need architectural drawings for the units for the ARC to review. We've discussed the landscaping phasing plan, basically which units, how you're wanting to do that.
Okay.
And any other utilities, tables, or anything underneath the proposed pavilion. Just kind of provide that detail so we can have some more information there. In regards to parking, I think I'll kind of kick this over to the planning because there's some more
So I
details
mean,
on those.
really, the nutshell is we need to know how big those commercial spaces are, like square footages, so that we know what the parking looks like.
So the exact on just the commercial spot, not the living above.
Right.
Okay.
So we don't have any dimensions or square footage to go off of to know how much parking would be there, but you're really close to where it may meet it. There might be a few. You might have a few more than you need. You might have a few less than you need. We just don't know.
Sure.
We need
Okay.
the numbers to verify it. So,
Okay.
I mean, that's the main thing. I don't know, Ryan, if there's anything else you want to expound upon.
Oh yeah, that's pretty much it. Just know that you're required to have 5 parking stalls per 1,000 square feet of commercial space. So that'll kind of help you figure out if you have enough parking, but it's five spaces per 1,000 square feet.
So the commercial spaces front on the Highland or?
On the Highland, and then there'll be garages on the backside for residential as well.
So
There
where's
will
the
not be any
commercial-
parking on Highland.
Right, we
Yeah,
were gonna
that's
red
gonna be-
curb Highland Drive, so there's no parking.
So the commercial space is
Parking.
only the main floor and it's the half front. So they're really kind of like, I would consider them more like
Work, live.
entrepreneurial spaces that are just really small.
What about 120 East?
No,
There's nothing there. It's only 8 units, 8 through 30.
Will there be parking allowed on 120? I mean, we
So
need some red
there's-
Curbs from,
so they can't count any parking
I understand.
on that.
I understand.
But-
But we allow parking on 120 East.
So we would probably want to red curb it back to the southwest of unit 8. So all the way basically
Red
from the
curb this
driveway
portion
around
here.
the entirety of Highland Drive.
And some
And maybe
distance.
even just a little bit south of the entrance there, just to make sure we have a clear view area. So we'll let's note that and make sure that we have that on there, John.
The ones that gets down in the corner, as you know, it's right curb next to the school. So
Right, so there may be some parking in front of 1 through 6, for instance, but 7 through 13 wouldn't be any parking on-street parking allowed, just for safety purposes.
What about the other side of 120 East? I know there's a home there, right?
If there's an existing home right here,
Wasn't there a storage unit place?
yeah,
There are, but that's on hold, we don't know
they're
where that's at
rethinking
with the
some
developers.
things.
So where's the entrance to is it the broadband? property?
There's two entrances, they have one on Highland and one on 120 East. If they move forward with that subdivision, the one on Highland would go away.
Okay.
yeah, there's one right
But we
here.
don't know if that's.
That's,
Yeah.
we haven't heard anything from them in probably 6 or 8 months. So we don't know where that's at. They don't have an approval right now. They still have some red lines that they need to address, so
Yep.
right now they don't have any approval.
Just some additional comments for you. This is the sewer line here. That's a private sewer line, so it needs to be labeled as such. The amount of cuts that are in the road through here, both PI sewer and culinary, there'd be an overlay that extends 15 feet past the trench that you did there on both sides. There's going to be some additional paving and stuff along Highland Drive here that will be part of the project. So, and then, mailbox location, coordinate with the USPS on that. On the grading plan, there's some information that's missing. Proposed grading, finished grading of it. There's the existing showing. You do have some kind of flow arrows showing where the intended stormwater is intending to go. However, as you get over here onto this access point, there's a considerable amount that flows into the right of way that needs to be addressed. And then we're missing the storm drain report associated with the development. We need to include the detail for Highland Drive on there as you'll be doing improvements along there. Again, we make that comment that we discussed on questioning whether or not that's the appropriate size there. Some comments on the plat. Side setbacks here need to be 15 feet. Is that correct, Ryan? And as I say, we're matching kind of what was done further south there.
It looks to me like that middle pathway between unit 17 and 18. I think that'd be a great access through there, but it looks like you might have a little bit of room. You can compress that a little bit to get some more setback on the south.
West.
Yeah, the south side.
How big do you want that?
I mean, you want it to be big enough to, people can go through there.
Is 6 feet sufficient?
I mean, there's not really a requirement for you. What I'm
Okay.
saying, it's up to you, but it'd be nice.
Is
to have
there a
something
building
there.
setback space between building requirements? I don't know if we have one in our zoning.
That one, at least on zoning
Yeah.
wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say that again, Randy.
I said, there's no setback there, it's no different than the units apart.
Okay, so literally you have 0.
Right.
And just so you know, right now, you need about 4 feet. So if you did bring it down to 6 feet, you would meet that 15 foot setback.
Okay.
So,
The only concern there is maybe you'd want to, if you did that, provide lighting on the buildings there to keep that,
Just
light that
dark
up.
alley in
Yeah.
Santaquin.
Don't want to have dark alley in Santaquin. Again, just some other notes, PUEs, addressing, street names, we've discussed that as we've gone through there, so. Closure comments will be done once final application submitted. Again, the record survey, that is not Joel Way. It's 120 East. This is a note on there, and landscaping comments. I don't think we need to go through those on there. Just, we'll provide these all to you. So, and that's the remaining points are all red line
Are
comments on
you
there.
planning to do these units just like the ones that are there already?
They're similar, yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say for ARC
I think they're a little
purposes.
bit bigger because the garages are bigger.
And if they're, I mean, the ones that are commercial might look a little bit different, the front of the Highland Drive, so we'll want to look at those ones. But I was gonna say all the other ones, if they're consistent with what you have there, usually what we'll do is we'll just verify that they're in fact consistent, they look the same. But I think with the commercial units, it's probably good still to look at them and make sure that you know.
And you kind of saw the one.
You
rendering.
showed us what,
You're-
yeah,
Is that pretty close?
I think you're on the right track,
Okay.
but we'll just have to
We'll go from there then.
We'll just have to go through the ARC process.
So are these individual homes? So 13, 8 through 13. So the owner of that residence, do they own the commercial?
So that's the intent. That's what
Yes.
they want to do. But we've looked at it as worst case scenario if someone owned that and decided to lease their little commercial space that we're planning.
So the owner of that unit would have control over the commercial
Correct.
spaces there. Right. So is there anything that prevents them from moving? I guess what I'm saying is if I own unit 13, can I say, well, I don't want to lease that out. I'm just going to move my personal stuff in there. And I'm going to.
That's a good question. I mean, is that something you guys
Most
plan
people
to?
don't because of financial reasons. You actually do better. What we found on most of them is the people who live there, actually like accountants, bookkeepers, dog groomers, most people own little shops. So that's the
So
attractiveness
you're
of it.
marketing to.
Yeah.
But is there anything to prevent those people from using that as a living space?
Well, they own it.
Yeah, they own it, so no.
It'll be a designated commercial space.
Yeah.
So they're going to be paying. That'd be a very
It's
expensive.
an
residential-
expensive basement or main
So
floor to
to
live
get
in.
these units here, do they have to have a commercial component to get them on the Highland Drive?
No,
Or is that just something?
that's just something.
That's something we
we're
more worked out with the city to try and make it, because they want to
Yeah.
try and put some commercial right there.
Right. It was kind of a.
It's kind of a bonus, actually, more than anything.
I agree.
It'll be, it'll be interesting to see what kind of commercial spaces one of those,
Yeah.
but they'll probably be either like a little boutique or a home office or an accountant office or something like that.
So those 6 buildings that are gonna have residential, commercial in the same building, those buildings will need to be fire sprinklered.
So the whole thing or just the commercial space?
I'll have to look into that. I think it's the whole thing.
Okay, but if you let us know, yeah, let us know.
Or is it just fire separated walls?
I think depending on the separation.
So as long as we meet code on the wall separation, then you shouldn't need it.
That's my
Problem is you've got
understanding.
living space above it.
Yeah, I think that's where it becomes a dual occupancy at that point. I don't think the wall separation is a thing anymore. I think that's only in place on residential, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, let us know if we,
Those are 2-story, right?
correct,
With the basement.
yes.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, if not, look for, as I said, this is preliminary, so look for a motion.
Still a lot of missing information, so I'll make a motion to table.
Motion table, is there a second?
Second.
A second by Taylor. Is there any discussion on that? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
I
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion to table passes. We'll get these, we'll update these red line comments and get them sent over to you and Atlas Engineering for you guys to review and start working on. So. Okay, thank you. Oh, real quick, Kara, do you have Kevin's and John's names? Okay. I didn't remember if we got that. So, okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the 341 Townhomes. This is a final application. We've seen this application a couple times now. So it's a 3-unit townhome located off of First South on and at 341 East. So with that, we'll go around I think we're fairly familiar with this, so we'll roll around. Have anything to add? Okay. Norm,
Can you state your
admin,
name for the record?
Yes, John Money.
thank you. Norm, did you have anything? Wade? Okay. Randy? Okay. Rod?
Just for the record, moving forward, I would rather see that green space have parking stalls rather than have that curb.
So your intention up in front, correct?
Because we're gonna end up with RVs on each side of that curb as it is. And it's probably not an issue now, but when those other two properties get developed or we move along, then it's gonna become an issue. And then you only have 3 parking stalls, right, for extra cars, RVs,
Yeah,
utility
yeah, before,
trailers,
yep.
whatever. Just from experience on the other developments I've seen, we're gonna have some problems there. So,
Okay, thank you.
John, I have a question. On these units, do we know the size of these units? Are they allowing or providing 24 by 24 garages?
Yes, we are.
For dual parking? Okay.
I believe the architectural plans indicate that, right?
Yes.
Oh, and we don't.
He has
We've
to
got them,
be,
but we have some preliminary comments that still need to be addressed before it goes to ARC.
Okay. I'll pull up so comments here.
You'll get a copy of these as well, so you don't need to
Yep.
write them all down. You're more than welcome to take notes. You'll get a copy of the red line, so with our comments on.
All right.
So CCNRs, draft CCNRs are still, we haven't received those yet. So those
I
need to
have
be
had my
provided.
CCNRs and my acknowledgement of incorporation for the HOA.
Okay. Just say need a, yep. So we can review those, get those. Essentially, we just look to make sure that your requirements are not less than city code
One
requirements.
thing that we do look for with CCNRs, and to the point that was just made, is we want something in your CCNRs that indicated that the garages will be used for parking and not for storage.
Yep.
It's in the bylaws in the CC.
Great.
Okay. How come there's only one sheet showing up? That's interesting. Let me try reloading that. Yep, thank you. One more, please. There you go. All right.
Share your screen again.
Thank you. I dropped my Zoom off of there. Okay, thank you. Okay. So one comment on here, they put the note that it needs to be verified by the surveyor. It still needs to be, we need verification of that. So that was a previous comment made last time. And so they'll still need that comment still needs to be addressed.
my engineer in with us?
Have,
Ryan, are
yep,
you
we got
there?
Ryan.
Yeah, I'm right here. Let me turn on the video
Yeah,
too.
that.
Yeah, I did contact the surveyor and he was only able to check it out on Monday. I still haven't been able to, or yesterday, I still haven't been able to talk to him in depth. He does think that it is a 99-foot right of way. And he tried to call you, I believe, John, yesterday as well. At least that's what they said. And so, but that still needs to be figured out, but we have someone working on it right now.
Okay. There's a note here on the meter vault. So as previously said, I'll kind of go back down to that detail to kind of show that point a little bit more. So per our city standards, as previously discussed, a development 3 units or more, building that is connected 3 units or more, a single common meter needs to be provided. So here, according to this detail, you're showing a manifold with 3 separate meters built within that vault. That doesn't meet our standards, so it'd have to be a single meter vault or single meter set there, and then you'd have on the back end of that is where you'd provide your manifold that would go to serve the individual units. And so that detail doesn't meet our specifications.
So it's the detail, because it does show up on the utility.
Yeah, on the utility sheet, it calls to this detail.
Okay.
So that needs to be, that's why there's a note that refers you back to that detail.
So you're fine on that. The only thing is you're showing 3 meters. You're not gonna have 3 meters. You're gonna have 1, and then you can build your manifold after the meter.
Yes.
That's the clarification that we're trying to show here.
Yes.
Is that the detail doesn't represent it accurately.
All right, thank you, Norm.
Yep. And those are the remaining comments that we had previously. Is there anything else from planning and zoning you had on there?
Just a quick question real quick, John. I know we were talking on the phone about your architectural drawings. That you were gonna submit them last week.
Yes.
Are you still planning this? Are you thinking this week? Or?
Yeah, my renderings I'm supposed to get within the next couple of days, so I was turning them both in together. I do have the elevations complete. I haven't changed them from what you've seen, even though you've changed the primary engineer.
Yeah, that's kind of.
But I'm keeping them full stone as per the existing code.
Okay.
Till that gets done.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay, this is a final application. This will be a final application before they proceed on to construction. So with that said, I'll look for.
Planning commission, this goes to planning commission, doesn't it?
Does it go to planning commission?
Yes, it does.
Okay,
Planning
so
commission
this would be a
final.
recommendation to planning
It'd be
commission.
a recommendation. And
Thank you.
We would not put you on the planning commission agenda until we get ARC approval and everything done.
Yes, I understand that.
Okay. Okay, so that is a recommendation. Thank you for the clarification. And so with that, I would look for a motion.
So John, to be clear, there's really 2 or 3 items. The one is the right of way with verification. The other one is the meter. Is there one other item, or are those the 2?
Those are the
What's on the top right? Like, oh, the
CCNRs and ARC. That's what those 2 comments are there. So we've got CCNRs that we haven't had a chance to review. Architectural review committee, architectural information we haven't reviewed yet. Verification First South and the meter vaults.
And then there are a few
And landscaping
but they're very minor.
That can happen in conjunction with the ARC stuff, so I'd be happy. Fine with it moving on.
So any further discussion or anything?
That's
If not, I would make
fine.
a motion that we forward a positive recommendation once the 4 items get addressed, that the ARC, the meter vault detail, the right of way verification on First South, and the CCNRs are reviewed, and any comments on the CCNRs are reviewed, and all that has to happen before we will put it on an agenda for planning commission.
Okay, great. Got a motion? Have a second? Okay, any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, guys.
We'll
Thank you
provide
for
these
coming in.
comments to you and get them updated and sent. Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda, those ones, is the Countryside Estates Plat E. So this is a, there you go. Proposed subdivision up on down on 820 South. It's a dead end road there. It's proposed 3-lot subdivision. This has gone through, has been reviewed. There's been a few items that have been taken care of this in regards to the length of the water line, the dead end water line. It's received approval from, after review by the DRC of providing for 750 feet past that 500 feet for a dead end water line. So it has approval for that.
And the fire turnaround.
And the fire turnaround that's located between lots 2 and 3. So those have been looked at, and those 2 items essentially have received approval pending final approval of this subdivision. So there's say we've looked at this one. There's 3 existing services to each lot currently in place that were installed with 820 South when it was
Where is the
constructed.
snowplow area?
So this is the
Snow loading.
turnaround.
That's the turnaround, but that can't be the snow loading area if it's a functioning turnaround.
Just at the end of the road.
Yeah, just push it to where we push it now.
We're that one now.
Yep, it'll go basically just before the
turnaround gives
fence.
them an area to back up to that's a lot closer than. to walk.
Oh, I know. I'm talking about snow loading area.
Right, right.
That's what it's just, maybe that needs to be emphasized. Maybe we need to put a note on the plat that says that the turnaround cannot be used for snow loading. And then it needs to be plowed.
Well, we'll probably end up plowing.
I guess that's true, because that's right, because it's being
It's city
dedicated to
right
city
away.
right now.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and they can't, there's no parking in there.
Right.
We'll push to the end of that just to give us a spot to back into and turn around.
That's right, okay.
Okay, with that, we'll go around the table. Taylor, you have anything?
I
Fire?
don't have anything.
Okay. Oh, apologize, I didn't do this before. You remembered better, but could you guys state your names for the records, please?
Dirk Alferman.
Brett Brown.
Thank you. And okay, Norm, anything? Wade? Randy?
Good.
Rod?
I don't have anything.
Jason?
Nothing much.
Okay.
I guess just a clarification, so this is final approval. After this
Correct.
point, then you'd be working on bonding and, getting it recorded, so.
Is this a recommendation to planning commission?
No.
now?
No, this
No,
is
this is
final
final.
subdivision and approval at this point. So, a couple of notes is, again, I know you've already verified those services. And so that's just a note that's going to remain on there, just so you're aware. So we're communicating that. Then if there is any need to trench, we need to overlay the whole thing. There's still some outstanding items on the proposed infiltration area here. Needs to be located within an easement that we're still working on
I have a
there.
question on that. Since that already has a 10-foot wide easement clear across the front of that, is there any reason to make?
So
it
that's a
separate
public utility easement. That's not an easement for city utilities. That's
Public utilities are like dry utilities, gas,
Cable.
cable, power, those
easement?
are
Okay, so
all.
we still need that separate.
That's
correct. That is correct.
Yeah.
All right, that was one of my questions I had.
Yep. Yeah, so cities are not defined as a public utility. with-
Even though we provide public
Yes.
utilities. to the public.
Got it.
Unless the city owns the
Right,
power company
right,
or gas
right,
company or something
right,
like that, but we don't.
Correct.
Did you find those sewer lines?
We did.
All
Yeah,
of them.
everything, yeah.
All three.
We dug down to all 3 of them and marked them with PVC pipes.
On all 3 lots or
All 3.
everything's there.
Yeah, and
Yep.
John and I walked over them yesterday. We've got the we've got all those, and then the water services are all in. We're looking at whether or not we want to leave the meter setters in and there, or maybe even replace those with the.
That's a conversation you need to have with not only yourselves, but with Public Works to make sure that they're meeting our needs as well. They may be too deep, or they may have gotten run over.
They might not have to
Something
do
with that.
checks.
They might have,
The-
we'll want to verify that with Public Works.
Before you connect them,
That's right.
just holler and we'll look at them.
Before you pave
Yeah,
anything.
we're gonna open them up anyway, so that's not.
Like before you pave, and again, if we have to go out into the street, that's the reason for the note on there, is that there's always a possibility you're gonna have to do more than you think you need to do. And so we want to make sure that these guys are getting what meets our standards today. What was installed back then may not meet our standards today.
We need to verify they have water in them too.
Yes.
Right, I mean, it's very, very possible that they could have turned the cork stops off just because they knew they were gonna do anything else, you know.
Yep.
Hopefully that's not the case, but we'll find out.
So yeah, on there are some additional storm drain comments from the storm drain report that need to be taken care of on that. And so you've got a detail on the sump, or I should say the catch basin. The detail needs to match our city spec. It's not deep enough. It needs to be a minimum of 36 inches. So just so you're aware, just start to run there. So that's on the curb inlet. So at the bottom of the curb inlet, it needs to be that 36 inches. So a couple of notes on there that need to be addressed. So on that, is there any other discussion on Countryside Estates?
PI laterals are in there.
PILs there's not boxes, there's not a meter box over the top of it, so there's still some work that they have to do on those, but those PI services are there.
I wasn't put in, yeah.
There's a PI line on the north side of the road.
They were put in at the time.
When they
Where
done
they
the
asked
PI.
me to do it.
Yeah, it's on that side of the road.
Okay.
So
So,
we'll get together with you and we'll make sure those all have water in it.
That's probably one of the first things you want to do before you start doing road bases, curb and gutter and
Yes.
everything else.
Well, that's when we're trying to get to this point.
Right. But I'm just saying, construction wise, that's one of the first things
You
you
can
want
just
to check.
turn them on and check them.
Okay.
You'll know.
We'll do that.
But they're gonna need to inspect them to make sure that the setters are gonna be
Setters on the corner.
So setters on the culinary meet our standard. If
I'm
not,
sure they are, as long as they have a
If
good
they don't, then we either have to go down, turn the water off farther down, or you're gonna have to cut it to the road, and turn it off with the cork stone. So we'll have to decide
Well,
what's
if you
gonna
turn it off, or
right.
if you're at, it's only 5 minutes to switch it.
okay, anything else? Any other discussions? If not,
So
again,
what
this
are the-
is,
What are the red lines again? You've got the,
so we've got essentially just the note on there for the developer to make, as we've been talking about the services, make sure everything's good to go there. And then the sump and the proposed storm drain infiltration basin there and the easement. There are some comments on the storm drain report that they do need to address as well. They're not providing enough control of the 100-year storm event. So and we discussed that yesterday. So
You good with those with conditions? Okay, I'll make a motion that we grant final approval for the Countryside Estates Plat E with the condition that the red line, the engineering red lines are addressed.
a motion, is there a second? A motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. So we'll provide these to you, get those comments updated. You've already got bonding, so we start working on getting that stuff coming.
Head down to DeFi today and we're gonna try to address that, make sure we get that taken care of and today and tomorrow.
Okay. And we'll
no,
we'll
we
file
won't
that.
schedule a pre-con until those red line items have been addressed, whatever they are. I think it's mostly storm drain.
Yes.
And the storm drain report, we won't schedule, even if you pay your bonding, we won't schedule a pre-con until that. The plan set is ready to go.
Yes.
So the problem with it is, this is our final, this is our last, this is literally our last lookout. So it's gotta be done right and it's gotta be ready.
Yep.
Right, we'll get those.
Okay, thank you.
If we get together with you, Monday this week, we'll go down.
And when you're on, look at them and just call me and I'll call you. And let you know.
Hey, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's have a good day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the Hills at Summit Ridge, Plat C. This is kind of some back on this one. Developer requested and to install it, basically provide another point of access within the Hills development going on here. So if you're just saying familiarize yourself, the roads that are paved are within Plat B. So coming off of Summit Ridge Parkway, the road's paved to here. Plat B has been paved, and then D has also been paved all the way down to where the power line runs right now, where they've gotten the paving done for there. So part of it, they went through and received preliminary approval from the city council last week in regards to the new access road located here. And so that's the reason why it's come back for final approval, for final review here with DRC, is they've completed the preliminary approval and looking at that in Plat C, which includes that new road through there. So with that, it's like, Sean, you hear us?
I can hear you great, John. How are you?
Great. Awesome. Doing well. Thank you.
Harry.
Sean here. Yep. Okay, with that, we'll go around the room. Taylor, have anything?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Norm, you have anything? Wade? Randy?
Nope.
Rod?
Negative.
Jason?
No, I don't think so. We looked at this before and it was just waiting for the preliminary plan phasing to be squared away and reapproved. So I'm just thinking with the amenity, the dog park.
Oh, with the dog park.
I think we've worked out all the details there.
One thing of note, we'll also look at this phase as well, but phase C and D3, well, yeah, they need to be essentially constructed concurrently to allow for 2 points of access and appropriate water looping throughout this area. Without D3 being constructed and tied in along with C, there's not enough points of access or appropriate water line looping. So Plat C and D3 must be constructed concurrently.
So John, I think we need to add that note as an actual note on the plans.
Okay.
I know we've got it on there as a red line, but I think Sean needs to add that on there on both sets of plans so that's acknowledged by the developer and contractor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just there to the left side, John.
Is it down on?
No, it's to the left under the vicinity map.
Oh, right there. Thank you. Yep. So it is on there. So, okay. Thank you, Sean.
So I got a question that maybe we haven't addressed before and Sean, maybe you can enlighten us. At what point are you going to do those public amenity improvements? Like at what stage? Are you going to wait till the last home is built, or are you going to do it up front? Like when can we expect that amenity to be improved?
I would. So I talked to them last week about that. I would do it prior to, with the development. So I would not waiting for the last home. I would get it in there at time of final inspection, roughly.
Final inspection of what?
The improvement.
The subdivision improvements.
Subdivision
Okay,
improvements.
you'd have it before even a home is started, or I shouldn't hold you to that, but you'd have it before anybody even moves into that phase.
Yes.
Okay.
We may need to add a note or something in that regards to that.
Yeah.
So
You said
just so it's clear.
details of what went work down in this dog park. What
Like
details are you-
fencing and materials that are for the trail and things like that.
Any
Landscaping.
thoughts on the animal control?
Well, and that's something internal that we've talked about before, that we need to look at other cities and see what types of rules they have for their dog parks. That's something we need to do on our site. That's obviously part of this story, but not necessarily for the developer to worry about. But that's something we need to do.
Right, but we need to address that before the park.
Right.
Yep. So that's kind of it'll be that fence around this portion of it. And then is that a vinyl fence, I believe, that runs along that north side. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the plan they're
The
showing.
whole
That
thing is pretty much
it's solid. It's
sod, and then they got some crushed rock for that path.
Yep.
That 10-foot trail is that crushed rock as well?
That,
So that's road base, right?
right.
Sean?
Yep.
Trail is a compacted road base.
Correct.
Yep, 6-inch crushed rock compacted trail service.
So if I remember right, there was no sod, it was mainly just crushed rock throughout.
Yeah, I think on this one, it all crushed in there. It didn't make sense to
Okay.
transition.
So wait a minute, make sure I understand what we're talking about. There's no sod on the park?
Right.
A lot of dog parks have that, where it's,
Some sort of a gravel, yeah.
yeah, because it kills the grass from there.
You have a dog expert in the room.
I'm an expert from every water that goes past my house.
Does the city maintain that?
Yeah.
That is a city owned, but it's maintained by the HOA.
Correct.
Per the development agreement. So, okay, any other comments? Concerns? If not, and this is the final application, I'll look for a motion.
I am concerned about that. I thought we were gonna do sod in there. I'm wondering if we need to revisit that.
Sod in where? In the dog park, in the fenced off area?
And the whole thing other than the trails.
Well, I don't think that yeah. Sean, you want to talk more to why there's no sod and why you're going with the gravel?
That's pretty common in a lot of dog parks. We've done several recently, and the only way that we've put sod in is if they can split it off, and while the sod recovers on one side, that's being used on the other side. Where this one is a little bit smaller, we didn't think that was necessary. I'm not opposed to it. It gets ruined pretty quick.
So maybe you can, if we make a motion, to make a motion to consider that with sod, and maybe you can provide us with some details and pictures or dog parks that have that. I'm not familiar with them with gravel, and that's kind of a surprise to me. I thought we were always doing sod there. So if we make a motion here, then I think I would have the motion have something to do with revisiting the idea of sod at the dog park versus the gravel, and then you could provide us more information.
Okay, and I'm not opposed to sod. I just know the last, I think 4 that we've done, it's been this decomposed granite.
If you can give us those examples, that would be something for us to help us consider.
Okay.
And if we do go with sod, well, even if we don't go with sod, you're still going to have a irrigation connection there, right? Because you've got trees and shrubs. Is that shown, John, that we have an irrigation connection
I
there?
believe so.
Your utility sheet. See if you can-
Where did I see?
No, there's not.
Oh, there's not one.
I'm not seeing one there, so we would need to add that as a part of the motion as well.
Yep.
Because either way, you're gonna have to have a service connection there, even if you don't do sod.
Okay.
Yep, and serve the trees throughout there.
So
Okay. anything else?
other engineering or
That's just that PI service and reissuing that. So no other concerns.
so if we're ready, I'll make a motion that we would approve this contingent upon revisiting sod at least on some or all of the dog park and adding a service connection for at least the trees, even if there's not sod. There's going to need to be water at this park. In fact, I would say you're going to need 2 sets of water. I think you're going to need culinary and PI there, because you're probably going to want to have a drinking fountain there as well. So that would be part of my motion, is to add 2 service connections, a drinking fountain, and then reconsider the sod idea at the park. The city park, but it's maintained by the HOA according to the latest development agreement amendment.
Yep. Okay, so I have a motion.
Norm, could I propose that you add to your motion that the trail and the dog park open space area be completed before the first C of O?
Yes.
Okay, so I got a motion, I got a second with,
I didn't second that. I just
oh, you
asked him
didn't?
to
Just
amend.
Adams to amend that one?
But I'll second it.
You'll second it? Awesome. It's very kind of you, Jason. So the motion is for to grant final approval with the condition that the finished surface that within the dog park be reevaluated with, instead of the crushed rock, evaluate that in relation to grass, to include a PI service connection and a culinary service connection with a drinking fountain, and the addition of yours, sorry, Jason.
The park improvements in the trail be
And
completed before the first C of O.
before the first C of O.
In that phase.
So, okay, so that's the motion. The second, any discussion on it? Okay, if not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hey, motion passes unanimously. Yeah, the next, we mentioned it before, the next item on the agenda is.
Thanks, Sean.
He's on the next.
He's still on this one
Oh,
too.
he is?
He is.
I guess it was
Yep.
Sunday. How was that
The
drive?
Hills D3.
Thanks for being here, Sean.
Thanks for coming back.
Again, this is the phase that would connect what's been recently paved in phase D and connects phase C to phase D to give it both multiple points of access as well as appropriate water line looping. So with that background, we'll go around the table. Okay, you have anything?
No, I don't have anything.
Norm, have anything?
Well, this makes good sense as far as connectivity and traffic circulation, et cetera. So,
Wade? Randy?
Nothing.
Rod?
I like this better.
Yeah, that was a lot. Jason?
The only thought I have after our last discussion is it doesn't look like the trail under the overhead power line is in this phase. Is that correct, Sean? You have that in D2?
Yes.
Yep, it's in D2.
So would it make sense, since C and D3 have to happen concurrently, to have that trail in the same phase as C, so it's all done at the same time?
No.
Same thing with
There's-
D and K and L as well.
Oh, right, but those are down the road. I don't know if that's.
So include the trail within D3 or, because the
D2's already.
D2's already approved.
That
Oh,
will change
then never
that.
mind. That doesn't matter. I have no problems. This is good.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, again, this is the same status in phase C, so it's
I'll
a
make
final
a-
application.
I'll make a motion that we approve the final plan for the Hills of Summer Ridge Phase D3.
Got a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Taylor. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, if not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Okay, thank you, Sean. We'll get the comments for both of these sent over to you to get those finished up. So,
Sounds good. I appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
okay, thank you, Sean.
All right, bye.
So I'm gonna pull up Google Maps here for the next two items on the agenda. Apologize, let me get this pulled up. So the next item on the agenda is a traffic control request located at Canyon Road and Highland Drive. Let me do a share here real quick. So we've received a request to make Highland Drive at the intersection at Highland Drive and Canyon Road, just on the south side of the I-15, to create a three-way stop sign at this location. Some additional information in regards to this particular intersection. It's currently under design to realign that intersection to bring it further south and create more of a 90, closer to a 90-degree intersection at this point. So the future frontage road would extend to the south side of this billboard that's located here. There'd be appropriate turn lanes both on Highland Drive, both north, both the, I guess the east and west side, all 4 directions of it. Part of that project includes a trail, extending the trail from where it finishes here on the north end of this development to the south, along the east side, all the way up along the new alignment of Highland Drive to the existing culvert just over the top of that culvert with as it going to north along Highland Drive, or the northeast along Highland Drive. So there it's and the traffic control at that point will put stop signs at Highland Drive, and Canyon Roads as it transitions into Center Street would remain a arterial road that would most traffic would flow through to Collector Road. So that's kind of some background on that to kind of help set the scene with that intersection there in relation to this request. So with that, we'll go around the room, express if there's any concerns or comments in regards to making to the request to make this a 3-way stop. So Taylor, do you have anything with fire on that?
No, I'm not opposed to the idea of making it a 3-way stop just due to visibility and everything at that intersection.
Okay.
So to go along with that, the visibility issues are going to be addressed the very best that they can by the realignment project that's going on right now. So that is, just to let you know, that's where we stand in now. That is the purpose, one of the purposes of this project that's currently under design, is to get them closer, get both of those incoming intersection for Highland Drive, and future Highland Drive going to the southwest, to align them better with Canyon Road. So they won't be 90 degrees, but they'll be within the design parameters that ASHTO sets for that, the federal highways and ASHTO.
Yep. Okay. Anything else?
I may have more, but
Wade?
No, on the 3-way.
Okay.
I mean, people are actually really safe on that intersection because you have to have that connection. We don't have any history of accidents on there, you know.
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't know, but I have one. People are actually a little safer because you have to bend your neck more. It's not painful. So I would say no on the 3-way.
Randy, do you have any comments? Rod, did you have any?
Well, I think part of the problem or part of the concern on the residents is the amount of traffic that's on that street right now, which I think will be, I mean, we haven't talked about the new frontage road further to the south. That's supposed to be paved within 30 days, within the next month. So I think that will funnel some of the traffic away from Canyon Road. And what's a realistic timeline for realignment?
So the realignment is being designed now, knowing where the design is at and knowing the property acquisition that we need to get. It would be a next year construction at best. So it will definitely not be constructed this year, but the design will be complete, and we will then start working on property acquisition, UDOT, all the stuff that we need to do there to get the right to go ahead and build the road. And then there are still negotiations with the developer to fund that project with a city payback over time.
So realistically,
next year we hope to be able to reconstruct that entire intersection, which again would take care of the visibility issues. It would provide stop signs on 2 of the minor 2 roads, which is Highland Drive compared to Canyon Road.
I would say no for now, but I reserve the right to change my opinion. If things don't move along as fast as projected.
Jason, you have
My,
anything?
my thoughts are along that line. I'd say no to it because it comes down to behavior. If we put a stop sign there, and if it's the intention in the future to have Canyon Road be an arterial road through, I don't know why we would get people used to stopping there. And then when the intersection's realigned, open it back up to not stopping there. So I think that's only going to cause confusion. I think Rod brings up a good point that if this project can happen within the next year and a half, then this will be fixed. Otherwise, if the project is delayed for some reason, then we can maybe look at it. But I think Wade brings up a good point that I've taken that corner a lot. I used to live in the area, so I've never seen problems. And in fact, I think people are a little bit more cautious, even though it is a little bit of a site issue. I think it just makes people on their toes a little bit more to be safe.
Okay, and again, along, kind of already discussed some of the engineering comments along those, say in the designation of Canyon Road, as it rolls, how it's designed in our transportation master plan, designated in our transportation master plan, the fact that we're in the process of redesigning that to improve that intersection, as well as not only improve the traffic circulation, traffic access, but it also improves the pedestrian safety along there.
And with that said, I don't think that's an ideal situation. I don't think it's the right angle and alignment and that sort of thing. It needs to be fixed because it's not ideal, but I think it's on the list of things to be fixed, and so I think we'll fix it. But we don't want to, do anything that's going to get in the way of the traffic flow and the behavior of when it's fixed.
So John, to go along with just a purely transportation engineering aspect of it, the ASHTO and the NUTCD indicate that the major roads should be more free flowing and the minor roads should be the ones with the stop signs on. So in this case, Canyon Road is considered the major road, and Highland Drive now and in the future with the realignment and going to the south will more than likely be the minor road. However, that could change depending on traffic patterns once that road goes in. So I respect Rod's, I appreciate Rod's comment is that for now, I think it's probably not warranted, but in the future, as we see traffic patterns or other things that potentially could change with that road going all the way through there, that could be a different scenario than where we're at today with the three-way intersection.
Likely be a four-way stop sometime.
It could be, not likely, but it could be depending on the amount of traffic that we see on Highland Drive versus the amount of traffic that we see on Canyon Road.
It could be reversed to where
So
Canyon Road becomes the minor and Highland Drive becomes the major.
So from a purely an engineering aspect of it, this would not have, even a new construction or now, would not have a three-way stop there. It would have a single stop as it currently does on Highland Drive.
Yep.
Just one question, not really related to the stop sign, but why would we stop the trail at the property line and not carry it forward to that extra block?
So that's a developer requirement. That extra block is going to be for when that subdivision goes in. Should the subdivision you talked about earlier in our meeting goes in, that would be their requirement and their cost, not ours.
But with that same development, were we talking about a through street there where the trails are along the alfalfa fields?
Yes, on 100 East.
Yeah, right through here.
I'm just thinking, I got a safe routes meeting at 1 o'clock with Eagle School District, and I know this is going to be an issue. So I was just curious on which one's going to go first.
So just so you're aware, we actually did approach UDOT for safe routes funding when we did Third West. We put 2 projects in. This was the other one that they denied. So we actually have probably 4 years ago, we applied for funding for this and for the 300 West project. The 300 West got the funding, this one did not.
Did they give a reason for denial?
I don't remember at that time. It may have been funding, it may have been not warranted for a number of students that are down there. I don't know the answer to that. But
we really need a safe route, either, cutting through that OHV area or
yes,
which is really the route they're gonna take.
Right. Right, so which is all contingent upon that development going
Sure.
forward. And without that development, we don't even have the right of way, nor do we have the ability to have them finish the frontage on Highland Drive. That's
Private property.
it's private property. We could certainly do it, but that would be an anticipated cost. And to go back, that's always been anticipated that was going to go forward, and that's why we stop at the culvert essentially with the new realignment in the trail, because that's as far as that project scope. And then this development was going to pick up from there.
Okay, any other comments, concerns? So let's say this is an action item. So with that,
So John, I want to clarify also, there's actually 2 requests on this particular letter that came in. I think we need to deal with them separately, but just so you're aware, this is only one. This has to do with the stop sign, 3-way stop sign. There's another request in a subsequent paragraph that we need to discuss after.
This is Jasperson.
correct.
So I'll make a motion as it pertains to the stop sign.
The 3-way stop.
The 3-way stop sign request, that we don't make any changes and that we leave it the way that it is, with the intention that that intersection will be improved within a year and a half, and that as things change or whatnot, we can reconsider this. But for now, I motion that we deny the 3-way stop request for this component of the Jasperson request.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. I don't have still on Jasperson. I don't have the second part of that.
I've got the request, and the request basically says, also in my neighborhood, we have a deaf child that is scared to go outside and ride his bike because no one is aware that he cannot hear what is coming from behind him. He has almost been hit by a car 2 different times. We're wondering if we could get a sign for him as well. So what they're asking for, I presume they've not explicitly said this, but a quote deaf child in area sign or something like that would alert traffic to that situation. So if I may, I'll go ahead and start this off as far as the discussion goes. I've done some research, and there's multiple articles out there. First of all, signs that convey a message such as blind child area or deaf child or autistic child in area are not recognized by federal highways as far as official traffic control devices. And there's some reasons for that. Even advocacy groups that advocate for the deaf and the blind and those that may have disabilities have mixed opinions as to the effectiveness of these signs. Okay, what we've seen in the past, and let me just jump to crosswalks. You'll see that UDOT has taken away many of the crosswalks that used to be there at what are called uncontrolled intersections. I mean, a crosswalk across a free-flowing street, they've taken those out because it actually provides a false sense of security, and drivers don't pay attention to it anyway. This is much of the same type of situation. So this one article indicates there is no evidence that the signs provided any benefit to the safety of children. In essence, what you're trying to convey to the public is to watch out for this. But this particular child that has a disability, but what happens is you get sign overload. People don't pay attention to the signs. You also get confusion as to what does deaf child mean, because sometimes that's all that can fit on a normal sign. The other potential drawback to that is that it gives a false sense of security to families and the children that it's safe to play in the road, which is not. So obviously, and parents know that, but that can also be a conveyed message with these types of signs. From a National Cooperative Highway Research Program, it's indicated that non-uniform signs should not be permitted at any time, and the removal of non-standard signs should carry a high priority. Now that means, for instance, that if there is a handicapped child or a disabled child in the area, they grow up and they're no longer a child, as it's indicated, then the sign comes down, or when somebody moves, the sign comes down. And so it also becomes a tracking issue with how long does that sign stay there? In fact, we've removed some of those signs here in town because of that same issue. Also, pediatric trauma physicians have cited studies, and they concur that particularly young children should actively be discouraged from playing near or on streets, and that adults have the primary responsibility for ensuring the safety of children in and near their homes. So in this particular situation, I don't see that the sign is warranted. The national transportation folks have indicated that they're not supported by their studies and design and criteria, et cetera. So I'll leave that, and we can continue to have a discussion as far as that goes.
Is there an indication of what she just says? Is it just says what area? That does she say, like give a neighborhood or anything like that?
She didn't. She was not specific on that, but I presume that she's asking for, or the neighborhood is asking for deaf child and area signs, something of that nature. Although it's not explicit here, an actual location or an actual street or anything of that nature. So that's good clarification.
Okay. Taylor, do you have anything? Wade?
Yeah, without a specific area. I don't know how big of an area do you take in with one of those?
Yeah.
And maybe see right in front of their house on both streets might make a little sense, but not the whole subdivision.
Then you again run into that tracking issue on there.
Right.
So,
Right.
Randy?
I don't think I have anything to add.
We put them in the past.
Rod?
We don't currently have any now, right?
I think there's one on Second East.
We have. My only concern is, in addition to what Norm said, was if we do it here, are we going to continue to repeat this process in every neighborhood that has special needs?
Well, or any kind of need.
Yeah, or, so my fear is if we do it here, are we going to do it the next block over, then the next block over, and then we have the sign overload that you referenced. So I would recommend one.
Okay. Jason?
Just refer to what's been said. That's kind of what my understanding is that false sense of security. So it's understandable, and we appreciate people looking out for special needs children in their neighborhood. But I think it's important to kind of understand all the different angles of this and how it could actually create a bigger problem with making it, creating that false sense of security.
So to be clear, I want to make sure we understand that we want to be compassionate to folks that have disabilities and needs. We understand that, but the research and the science doesn't support that adding a sign like this actually first changes drivers' behavior and second increases safety. In fact, there are studies that indicate that it could be a decrease in safety because there is that false expectation that now that there's a sign, people are actually paying more attention, right? I mean, stop signs and speed limit signs and curb signs where people are going around a curve too fast, they don't pay attention to those, which again can be life threatening and that kind of thing. So I want to make sure that folks understand we're trying to be compassionate. I believe in the best of our opinion that these types of signs in most situations do not increase safety.
Yep. Okay. Any other comments, discussion? Okay, if not, I'd look for a motion on the second aspect of the Jasperson request.
So I would make a motion on that second aspect of a deaf child and area sign that we not go with any changes or additional signs, any signs at this time in the area.
Okay. Got a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Got a second by Randy. Any discussion on the motion? Okay. If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. The second item on the agenda is the Spencer Streetlight request. This is close to the same area, just a little bit further south. located on 900 South and Center Street. Does say fine, regardless what Google Maps says.
That'll be the next agenda item.
It is Center Street. Again, you can't go off of.
So the particular request here in this area
Is for a street light in this intersection to help a street light, like just a street light.
Not a traffic signal.
Street light. Yep, a street light at this
Good
intersection.
clarification, 'cause that's what I thought when I first saw it as well. Wow, a traffic signal, no, a street light.
Yep. In addition, there's some potential clear view areas here that are looked at outside of the DRC. It's a concern that they expressed. What we're looking at specifically is a installation of a street light with this intersection. Some information on this one is current code requires, and this is a subdivision, and any subdivision, any new subdivision that comes in has to install a street light at each intersection, or a maximum distance of 500 feet apart.
Depending on the road.
Depending on the
Sometimes
type of
they're
road.
250 feet, but majority of them are 500
Yep.
feet.
This-
Spacing.
900 South would qualify for the 500 foot spacing. However, when this subdivision went in, there was no requirement to have a street light installed. So that's part of this request, is to install a street light at this intersection. So with that, go around the room.
I don't have anything.
Okay.
So it makes sense. This back when this subdivision was built, there was no code that says they need to have it, and we certainly need a light in that location. And I believe that that there's sufficient power, a pole and a transformer there to make it happen.
You pull up the street view, I think you can see that pole that's on the southeast corner.
So there's an existing, so there'd be a possibility to have a pole mounted light on that Rocky Mountain Power pole. So that would have to be coordination with Rocky Mountain Power
It'd
to
be like
to
a
get
Cobra
that
head.
done. Yes,
It's like
Could be a
just like a
Cobra
Cobra
head
head
and more
arm.
than likely an LED, which uses less power and is more directional. There's a lot less light pollution. There's a lot less issue with spilling over and that kind of stuff. Now that does still happen, but it is significantly less. If you saw our streetlights on Main Street before they were changed to LED, there was a lot of light pollution. These new LEDs don't have that.
Correct.
Nearly as much.
Is that a mailbox right there?
yep, there's a mailbox unit right there. So
Where's other than this proposal, what is the next street light? Is there one on 9th South?
there is one located over on this intersection of Canyon Road and 9th South.
Is that a similar Cobra head thing? Can we look at that?
Is that right there?
Can we get it?
I know it.
So it'd be just like
Trying to
that.
get your car sick.
Yeah, it'd be just like that. You just be pole mounted. But that one is more than likely a sodium, a high pressure sodium, so it would have the new ones have LED rather than that. So the LED is much more directional, straight down, but still provide the
Illumination on the
illumination on
intersection.
the intersection.
Yep.
So what about the other way, John? That's a question Rod had.
So
You go down the other, I think there's another.
That's an old street view. It's
yeah, that is an old street view. It doesn't show it. So let me expand out.
Just double click that half thing right there in the middle, John. Just
The aerial view.
click on that little dash line right below your cursor. Right there, just click on it and go back down. Maybe.
So how come that's not expanding out for me? Yeah, for some reason it's not wanting to go out. Oh, I have to click the Xbox. I tried that. Click the X.
Hit escape. John.
There we go.
You don't hit escape on that.
So there's one located right here.
There is a street light right there. That's correct. So,
Yep.
so putting a street light here would be congruent with our current code, just to bring it up to standard.
Correct.
And there's a mailbox there.
Yep, there's a mailbox right here.
within our right of way right there. That's correct. Like a combo unit.
Any other discussion? Okay,
So we need to talk to SCSD or?
there need to be coordination with Rocky Mountain Power to get an SCSD, because Rocky Mountain Power would be the ones who gives permission to mount to the pole, and
And the
SCSD and the power, and SCSD would do the work for us.
So I make a motion that we investigate the possibility of putting a light up on this pole with both Rocky Mountain Power and SCSD, and if feasible with both of them, that we go ahead and install a light there.
Okay. A motion, is there a second?
Second.
A second. Any discussion on that, on the motion? Hey, if not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Let's work on looking at that. The last street sign request is I'm probably gonna, the Viejas street sign. I'll probably destroy that, but again, it's the intersection down here on Highland Drive and Canyon Road. Do you have that email? I don't have, I never received that email.
So this particular person lives on Center Street, South Center Street in Santaquin. So right where we were back out with the traffic signal. It's very confusing when I have deliveries of visitors and they can't find my street. Again, what we've talked about is that under the freeway right here is north of the freeway is Center Street. South of the freeway is Canyon Road. And right now it's signed as Center Street on the south side of the freeway. So we may need to make a change there. There's all kinds of different things in here in the letter that I'm not sure we can address all of them, but we can certainly address in that location at Highland and Center Canyon Road. We could potentially put a directional sign for Center Street northbound and a directional sign for Canyon Road southbound. At least that would help somewhat. I don't know that it's going to alleviate the concern that this person has, the applicant has, because they're talking about having a hard time getting deliveries there. I'm not sure that signage that we're talking about here is going to solve that.
No, this is Pine View on there. Google.
But the request has been to do something more logical where to put a double sign with arrows, just like what we talked about.
Maybe leave the Center Street sign there, but put like an arrow.
It'd be a new sign. They have to.
I guess it's true.
We do two new
Put
signs.
the arrow on there, or make it bigger. Put the arrow on there. So that's what they're asking for here.
But you do have part of Center Street going the other direction.
We do, but this area is not going to solve that. You have part of Center Street going off of 9th South, right back where we were just talking about with the light. But I don't know what you could do in Highland Drive and Canyon Road that would solve that issue. You could put up some more signs that says Center Street, South Center Street this way, but again, that's the whole sign overload, the whole, I think it's probably going to be more confusing if you try to do something like that. I think the reality of it is that delivery drivers and visitors just need to realize if it's 900 South and they're on 780, they got to keep going farther south to find out where they're at. You know, I guess the other thing is that we could put a sign at the corner of Canyon Road and 9th South that says South Center Street to the west, so that they could find that way. I don't know.
I think that would be,
again,
I think that would cause confusion.
I mean, can you just put a request into Google Maps to change that from Pine View to Center?
So,
well, again, we can look into that. One of the other comments that this person has is that the GPS doesn't get them there. Well, we don't really have control over GPS. I think us or them or people living on Center Street could potentially call or email or whatever you do to Google Maps and get them to make that change so that it's not Pineview Circle, because it is on Google Maps listed as Pineview Circle, Center Street south of 900 South, but it's really Center Street.
Put a sign there that says Pineview Circle as well.
well, so originally, the original subdivision that was done 20 plus years ago, it was Pineview Circle. 30 years ago, yeah, a while ago. However, with the alignment and the address grid that we have in place, that's where it lined up there.
That's the problem.
So,
They're not finding them because there's no sign that says Pineview Circle, but a sign that says Pineview Circle.
But their addresses are actually similar.
correct. all those addresses are Center Street. So
Is there a Center Street road sign there? Address sign?
right here. Yeah, it reads Center Street at that intersection.
Why did that change from Pine Beach Road to Center Street?
Mark Carter did that.
And so at the time that the address grid was adopted and implemented and formalized, that's our understanding when that came in and when that address, that street name was changed. So, and if there's a lot of impacts to changing addresses and street names when it comes to the whole area. So
And back at the time, they were trying to get away from that.
mhm.
One of the big things then. That's when they
Yep.
screwed everything up.
So in this case, I would not say anybody has any other thoughts. I think we ought to just put a double sign up on Highland Drive and Canyon Road.
Yeah.
with
As a
directional
center
directional
street with an
signage.
arrow to the north and a Canyon Road with an arrow to the south. Then it'll be a three-way sign there, or a three-segment sign, one that says Highland Drive and the other two say the other.
I mean, thinking of the South Center Street people, is that gonna cause more confusion, or do we just take the Center Street sign down and put Canyon
Again, I
Road?
have to go back to, if you follow an address grid and you need 9 something south. You know, I guess we could put how far south.
Well, we just not put an arrow on center. And you just put an arrow Canyon Road. Cause that is the problem if there's a South Center Street and your arrow points north and you come off.
That's a good point.
I don't know that you're making it clear by only having one arrow, right? I think you're gonna
If you
cause
straight across,
confusion,
you
you're
do
gonna
it.
make people think that it's center and Canyon.
You do it across the street, say Canyon Road, Center Street.
Yeah, again, there's no easy fix for this. I don't believe that there's a solution at that intersection that's gonna solve the 900 South Center Street issue. Unless you just put signs all the way down. It says South 900 South, sign that South Center Street, South Center Street. You put 15 signs down there to get them to South Center Street. Again, I have to go off with a grid system. If you gotta talk to Google Maps or whatever, or delivery drivers and give them special instructions to go Center Street, Canyon Road to 900 South, and then west to Center Street again, then that may be something that people need to do as far as deliveries. I don't know.
I think with that said, this person, we're going to the request, has nothing to do with South Center Street. It has just, does it?
Her address is Center Street.
Okay, so.
Well, so again, that's a good question.
Sometimes the streets don't.
Oh, if we're trying to address the request, they live on South Center Street, wouldn't keeping that sign Center Street make it a little bit?
So the request
easier?
is, there needs to be a double sign with arrows identifying Canyon Road continues into Santaquin Canyon, or rename it Center Street, which is the opposite of what we're now talking about. Is she wants that whole
Thing we said.
the whole Canyon Road all the way to 9 South be Center Street, and then Center Street back over to Center Street where it is. I mean, again, there's no easy answer here.
No, they're not.
Because, yeah, we're not.
So I think we just put a Center Street sign, leave the Center Street sign or get a new one. And just do a Canyon Road arrow south.
Yeah, I don't know that you're.
That way, because we're not distinguishing the Center Street as only that way.
Right. Kind of what I think too.
Because if you're coming off Highline, you're looking for an address and there's Center Street with an arrow, you're like, well, Center's that way. This is.
I agree with that.
That'll give them the perspective, Center, this is Center and Canyon Road.
Wade, I'll second that motion.
Is that a motion?
And then you get down
Like I said,
900
there's no
and say,
good way to do
where's the house? I'm at the right south. And I'm on Center
Well, that's
Street.
the concern, right? Is if you call that Center Street and you don't have an arrow, then people are gonna think it's Canyon Road and Center Street. And then they're gonna go to 900 South and try and find Canyon Road and Center Street, and it's not there. So Randy's got a very good point right there. It can't be both.
It is though. Actually, right there at that intersection, it is both of them.
So
Right, but south of that, it's not.
Well, Get a night south.
Well, no, it sounds like that. None of those addresses are on.
So you get a
Center
night
Street, they're all
south and
Canyon
hang
Road.
it right for a block.
We're not gonna find a perfect solution to this, but
No.
my feeling is I think Wade hit the nail on the head in terms of being ambiguous about Center Street because it is north and south, but being very specific that Canyon Road is only south.
Yeah, but Center Street's south too.
That's what I said, is leave it ambiguous with no arrows for Center Street. And
I don't think whatever you do there is gonna solve any issues
Right.
that we currently.
That's what I just said.
We're currently feeling today.
We're not going to fix this problem, but I think that's probably the closest we can get to making.
Randy's got a motion.
I said, make the motion that we do nothing. It's not gonna clarify, no matter what you do, it's just gonna confuse someone else.
I'm good with that.
So
We
I
have
got
a
a
motion
motion,
and
a
a
second.
second.
Yep. Okay, any discussion on that? No, I'll go, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion passes, majority.
You know what that means? That means you come up with the answer.
Actually, Ray came up with it. And I agreed with it.
Okay, the
It's better than what's there now.
last item on the agenda is approval of minutes for the June 23rd DRC meeting. Any discussion on those minutes?
Motion to approve.
Okay, got a motion to approve by Norm, a motion to second by Wade. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Hey, John, can I have one more second?
Oh, yes.
Can you go to the intersection of Fifth East and the grocery store?
It's not on the agenda.
I know this is not on the agenda, but I just wanted to, I think I brought this up last time, but I'm not sure if I officially did or not, but the portion there that looks depressed on the right there, a little bit lower, right there, that depressed area on the west side of Fifth East that was supposed to be a right turn out only, but never got approved and could only be a right turn in instead. That is city-owned property that we no longer need. Does anyone from this group have any concerns if we do not retain that property?
I think that that's a great idea that we don't retain it, that we relinquish that back to the developer that provided that roadway to us, and then it becomes part of that outbuilding pad that will be there in the future and part of their landscaping to take care of and improvements rather than ours.
Depending on the utilities on underneath.
Well,
Yeah,
they have to
maintain all these
provide-
ones.
Yeah, they have to provide utility easements. But that would be my recommendation, is that we relinquish that. What would happen is that would be about a vacation of right of way. And in a vacation of right of way, it goes back to the person or the developer that provided that to us, which is the person that still owns the ground there. So
It's an unbuildable parcel of property for any other purpose. But any other department have any concerns if we don't retain that?
Appears not.
Okay, all right, it's not an action, just wanted to get your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, look for, if there's no other comments or business, look for motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Great. Got a
Second.
motion to, we are adjourned at 11:45. Thank you all.